Hello and welcome to another audio analysis. In today's video we're taking a look at the track Take Me Back to Eden by the British rock metal collective Sleep Token. This is the penultimate track from their album of the same name, with it being the title track and also the song that brings the story to a close. Despite Euclid being the final track on the album, that certainly feels more like a eulogy to the three albums as a whole, whereas this track really feels like it puts the final piece into the puzzle, really brings everything to this big crescendo and really ties everything off before they do head into that eulogy. I did cover some elements from this track in the full album review, which you can find in the description if you want to check that out, but I really want to expand on some of the thoughts that I had around this particular track because it is littered full of references to previous tracks, some really clever, strong elements as well, including the lyrics, the musical style as well. So I want to take a deeper dive and really pick the track apart, considering it is the final crescendic build that we have got over the three albums, really kind of tying the story and really pulling it to an end. So will this track ascend to heaven or be sent straight to hell? Let's take a look at exactly how it sounds.
I dream in phosphorescence, bleed through spaces, see you drifting past the fog, but no one told you where to go.
So with this first verse, I really do love how they build into this track. This idea of these animals, it almost sets this early morning with that fog on the water, just as kind of life begins to spring into action. This idea of you see drifting past the fog, this idea of these perfect oceans, these crystal waters, these extra one or two words really help to add that extra bit of description to really showing this idea of this paradise. But I love this idea of I dream in phosphorus. So it's kind of opens it like it's almost he's in this dream state vessel, really kind of just having this imaginary thing that's going on. And the thing with phosphorescence I love about that particular word, it's all about this idea of light being emitted by a substance without combustion or any perceptible heat, but it can also be the emission of radiation, almost like his beliefs and his ideals are radiating this idea to really show this emphasis on this dream world, this idea of see you drifting past the fog. It could also be sleep, but it could also be just somebody in his life that he's let go. So he's kind of tying back to a previous experience, or tying kind of back to the start of the album when him and Sleep had a much better relationship. This is all happening in a dream state, and this idea of the critters and things like that, and this soft vocal, and also this slightly hollowed out vocal as well, really adds to this dreamlike state, but also gives it much more heavenly, much more positive feel.
Reset my patient violence along both lines of a pathway higher. Grow back your sharpest teeth, you know my desire.
And with the chorus, I love the lyric, I'm a winged insect, you're a funeral pyre. It's a complete play on moth to flame. He's drawn to these eyes that are like fire, almost like they're burning right through him. So I really do like that, this sleep that's kind of piercing through him as a person. It's kind of just tearing him to pieces. Come now, bite through these whites. It's almost like he's just being watched from afar, and he wants Sleep to really take that bite out of him, to really confront him. And we see that with the last line, grow back your sharpest teeth, you know my desire. You know that he wants to confront Sleep, really kind of bring this saga to a close. And it does make references to other tracks as well, and we're going to see a lot of that being brought in throughout this track. And it kind of shows this idea of how Vessel keeps messing up. I'm awaking hell and the gods grow tired. They're tired of his games and how he has been in his worship and the way that he gives himself to his deity. We've seen this back and forth relationship between him and Sleep, and we do see this inner reflective style being brought through. He accepts that he's awaking hell. He wants his patient violence to be reset. He wants to find this ascension, this way towards a more positive road, and we see that with this idea of a pathway higher, both lines, because there's two ways of taking that path, and we're really just seeing him explore these ideas and just really reflect, almost like he's speaking out to Sleep to try and get them to respond.
I will travel far beyond the path of reason. Take me back to Eden. Take me back to
And I like how with this refrain, we really see him proclaiming very heavily, this emotive range that's really powered up to kind of show this effect. And we get this transition into something darker. I love how we go from this almost dreamlike Eden into something much darker. And we see this song develop as it progresses. And we see these demons inside of Vessel really start to take their toll. We see that him accepting this dreamlike state, accepting that he's a waking hell and he's got problems and things like that. But this tonal change that we have from the instrumental section really start to show almost like those two sides of him, these two paths really fighting for control over his body.
Well, yeah, I spit blood when I wake up. Sink porcelain stain, choking up brain matter and makeup. Just 2 days since the mainframe went down and I'm still messed up. Room feels like a meat freezer, I dangling like cold cuts. Missed calls, answer phones from people I just don't trust. Mirror talk, fake love, but I'll take a pound of your flesh before you take a piece of my pay stub. White roses, black doves, godmother, rise up. I need you to see me for what I have become.
I like how with this verse we switch into this much quicker delivery. He's gone for that much more emotive outcry that we did see at the beginning of the track into this more aggressive stab. So they're trying to take a different form of attack towards Sleep. And I like how the lyrics tie back to Aqua Regia, that, well, yeah, I spit blood when I wake up, but you can reference it to between teeth on a broken jaw. And also just 2 days since the mainframe went down and I'm still messed up. We talked in Aqua Regia about how he sees himself as a circuit board. He's the one that's caused the fault that's taken down the whole mainframe. He has destroyed almost this temple of Sleep, and he's kind of the waking hell that is causing these constant issues, this constant hassle. So really starting to see him fight back against Sleep about this destructive relationship he has had with his deity. But again, that ambiguity remains, where you can still tie it in with kind of him with a lover as well, and the way that he's been quite aggressive in tearing the relationship down. And we do get more lyrics that kind of show that, this idea of missed calls, answer phones from people I don't trust. He's kind of cut himself off because he's become very dark in his nature. And we also get more contrasts as well, which we've seen throughout the entire album. White roses, black doves. White roses you can often see as quite a pure symbol, but black doves often signify death. So this idea of life and death almost, and Godmother rise up. I like the fact that they use rise up in this. It's not Godmother come down or anything like that, because you see Sleep now as this kind of dark figure, so it's almost like rising up from the earth, quite kind of death-like almost. So we see this much darker tone being brought in rather than seeing sleep as this sort of heavenly figure. I need you to see me for what I have become. So this dark figure that he's become, he's really wanting to call for sleep, to have that interaction, those subatomic interactions with sleep, and really kind of duke it out almost, and kind of have this big boss battle.
Those eyes like fire, I'm a winged insect, you're a funeral pyre. Come now, bite through these wires, I'm a waking hell and the gods grow tired. Reset my patient violence along both lines of a pathway higher. Grow back your sharpest teeth, you know my desire.
And one other thing I actually want to touch on from the second verse as well is the line, "But I'll take a pound of your flesh before you take a piece of me." And it's an actual reference to Shakespeare's Merchant of Venice. It's a kind of well-known Shakespearean piece that kind of talks about kind of the payment almost. So it's something else that we've seen throughout the variety of their tracks, really touch on this idea of offerings. The songs are seen as offerings, but also that payment of flesh, kind of giving his body and blood to sleep throughout the entire 3 albums. So really showing that constantly through, kind of idolizing everything that he has given up to kind of give himself to sleep, and he's not been given the reward that he feels he should have because of this darkness that's enveloped him and these demons that have corrupted him instead.
It goes to show, does it not, that we've no idea what we've got until we lose it. And no amount of love will keep it around if we don't choose it. And I don't know what's got its teeth in me, but I'm about to bite back in anger. No amount of self-absorbed fury will bring back the glory of innocence.
And with this verse, we really start to see it going back into that more inquisitive attitude. We're really seeing every verse kind of cover different forms and ways you can interact. We had this emotive piece to start with into something quick, more quick-paced and aggressive. And now this is the more lost almost, this kind of lamb-like state that he's kind of showing in. I guess it goes to show, doesn't it? This idea of not knowing what you've got until you lose it. So it kind of shows that idea how you can be blind, almost go through blind faith. And it's only when you lose something that it really hits you how hard. So he's kind of got to that point where he's lost that relationship with sleep, and we're seeing how he just kind of feels a bit lost. He's only gained dark things from it, only gained negative things as opposed to the positives he was hoping for. And we see this idea that the sleeper's got his teeth into Vessel, and he's about to bite back in anger, and no amount of self-sought fury can kind of bring back his innocence. So he knows that he's been corrupted by his religion, that it's kind of just worked, it's like almost like a cancer, it's spread through him over time, and he's gotten to that point where he's ready to fight back. And we're constantly seeing this build, all these ideas being suggested, this him reflecting before he takes that real plunge into taking that full-on bite back.
Tired, reset my patient violence.
love how in this post-chorus we get this reference back to chokehold, going straight back to this whole cycle and the idea that sleep has got him in a stranglehold almost, and he's finally trying to break free. And musically, I love how the band, or the music, really helps to try and compensate for all these different switches in styles. We see this ebb and flow, and it's something that we've seen, this constant strain between Vessel and Sleep. It's a love-hate relationship, and that's why these contrasts and these ebbs and flows in the music work so well. To go through so many different sounds and styles in the penultimate track on this album is something they really wanted to explore. Their sounds, their styles, but really show the different ways through the music that you can almost have these interactions with people. You can go through different emotions, you can go through anger, sadness, happiness, and they're shown through these different musical styles that are delivered. And that's why I love how it's almost, despite being one solid 8-minute track, it never gets old or kind of feels too long, because you're constantly seeing these changes in emotion, you're seeing these changes in sound as well, and it just shows massive credit to Sleep Token as a band to be able to pull it off so seamlessly. And one thing I really love about that ending, how we can interpret this in different ways. We can either look at it as almost like these demons escaping from Vessel, or you can look at it as this appearance of Sleep. It's finally put in an appearance. It's almost like this confrontation between Sleep and Vessel has finally occurred. This big boss moment before we do kind of head into the eulogy with Euclid that kind of ties everything off. So if they ended with the album with this, it would have felt like very much a cliffhanger, and it's almost like this has been building up to this moment where the two finally do confront, and it's really great how they kind of threw that onto the end of the track to really show that, to really just have this really big strong build, and you can just feel the moment where you've got this kind of, like I say, this demon or this deity finally making an appearance with this demonic scream. So kind of touching more on this idea that Sleep is a very negative and a very corruptive deity at that. So really strong how the band were able to kind of throw that onto the end of the actual track. But just the song as a whole just incorporates so many strong elements. Like I said, the ebbs and flows in the musical style, these chopping and changing emotions that we do get to see in one single track. And usually an 8-minute track does just become very drony, it becomes very samey, and this song certainly does not do that, and it served as a perfect ending. I think these 3-album trilogy needed a strong ending like this to really kind of put this introspective style to end, to really show the journey that Vessel has been through in his final confrontation with his deity, and that final moment is just shown so well through this track, and it certainly served as one of the perfect closers for this actual album. And I also love how all these references that are brought in from previous tracks, they're not thrown in your face. They're not completely scattered throughout the entire track to the point where it's just like you're trying to draw like one of those red string maps to work out what ties to what. Some of them are very simple references, and they make complete sense because they fit in with the theme and the lore of the band's history and the story they've created within their universe. So I like how you, even without knowing all the references, you can still feel like it's a complete song. You don't have to, they're not essential in understanding what is going on and the emotive side that's coming through, but for those that are long-time fans, it adds that extra layer of strength to the songwriting when you can tie everything together. And I am really curious to see where the band will go next. I know we've just got this album and I'm probably trying to jump the gun here, but I'm curious to see if that final moment is going to trigger onto the next chapter of the band, because as I said, it feels like we've got this final boss moment, this confrontation between the two, but I don't know if we really get that kind of conclusion as to what happens next. So it may be something they explore in the next chapter of the band's sort of discography a few years down the line. But for now, we just have to enjoy this final kind of moment of this actual album, really pulling everything together, this work that they've been building, this universe they've been building over 4 years, and finally bringing it to its grand conclusion. So that will be everything for today's video, but as always, feel free to let me know your thoughts about this track in the comments section below. Do you think it served as the perfect kind of almost closer for the trilogy, or do you kind of wish we get to find out what happens next and where the story will continue to go? I would love to know your thoughts. And as always, if you want to see more content like this, then please do feel free to subscribe, and I will see you in the next Audio Analysis.